Dear student, exceptions are classified into system exception as well as application exception. If I consider outer try block, the try block must be followed by the catch block, and this is the outer catch block. There are certain times I just want to check the type of the data type, especially integral data. Hello to all, a warm welcome to my new session on managing errors and exception. I'm your Revati ma'am, faculty from the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. So dear student, once again in my today's session, I'm going to deal with exception handling mechanism. Before going to start my today's session, let me to recall the topic what I have discussed in my last session. So dear student, in my last session, I started with multiple catch block. In the sense, for the single try block, I can have multiple catch block and how it's going to execute. So dear student, for the single try block, I can able to write multiple catch block, but during the execution of the program, the compiler is going to consider only one catch block and it's going to ignore rest of the catch block. Along with that, I have covered C# finally. So dear student, what is the need of finally block? It is mainly used to perform all the cleanup procedure as well as closing connection. Even though the exception is not handled, but still the finally block is going to execute. Along with that, I have discussed exception hierarchy. So dear student, exceptions are classified into system exception as well as application exception. All those things we discussed in my last session. And dear student, from the examination point of view, all these topics are very, very important. Even you can expect 2-mark question under finally block. Anyway, dear student, in my today's session, I'm going to deal with nested try block. Along with that, how can I throw my own exception and checked and unchecked. So dear student, from the examination point of view, checked and unchecked are the very, very important topic. Now, let's start our session with the topic that is try block. That is nothing but nested try block. Anyway, dear student, in my previous session, I have discussed try block. So, for single try block, I'm going to have the catch block. Catch block. Now, once again, I have discussed for single try block, I can have the multiple catch block. Okay, multiple catch block. Okay, fine. Now, what is nested try block and why I want nested try block? So, dear student, nested in the sense what? Within one try block, I'm going to have the another try block. So what is nested? Within one try block, I'm going to have the another try block that is known as nested try block. So here students, the try block is mainly used to handle the exception. In the sense, whatever the code I want to execute, and that's going to generate an exception that should be written inside the try block. So dear student, let me to write the syntax first. So dear student, I have the try. So and inside this, I'm going to have the try block, and for this inner try block, I'm going to have the catch block. Okay, and for the outer try block, I'm going to have the outer catch block. So dear student, we know that we can use try block with the catch block. So for this outer try, so this is my outer try block. Okay, for this outer try, I'm going to have the catch block. And if I consider the try which is inside the try block, so this is my inner try block, and for this inner try block, I'm going to have the inner catch block. So what is nested try here? That is nothing but the try within the try. Okay, and each try is followed by the catch block. Now, dear student, I'm going to have this simple example program. And what is my program name? That is nothing but multiple catch block, and I'm going to have the main function. Now, see here, I'm going to have the try and try. So, 2 times I have the try block, and this is my outer try block, and this is my inner try block, and this is known as nested try. In the sense, within one try block, I'm going to have the another try block. Now see here, I have some number, say it is 110, and I'm trying to add A plus B, that is 110. Now see here, I have another try. Here I'm going to create the array, and what is the size of the array? It is 4, that is nothing but 0 to 3. Now see here, I'm trying to print the 5th element. So what is my array length? Array length is 4, but still I'm going to print the 5th element. So what's going to happen? This particular code is going to generate some error, and that is handled by the catch block. So this catch block is for my inner try. Okay, this catch block is for my inner try block. And what kind of error it is going to generate? That is array index out of range. So I'm going to have the catch and array index out of range exception, and I'm going to display the object, that is exp. So dear student, this is the another catch block, and this is known as outer catch block, and this is for outer try block. So if I consider outer try block, the try block must be followed by the catch block, and this is the outer catch block. Now see, I have another exception, that is array index out of range exception, and I'm going to have the object called exp. And what is the output I'm going to get? That is, here the exceptions are handled successfully. So I'm going to get the error message, that is array index out of range error message. So this is the way I can able to use nested try block in my program. Now dear student, I'm going to have another concept of the day, that is throwing our own exception. Throwing our own exception in the sense what and why I want this exception handler. So dear student, there are certain time our program is going to generate some kind of exception. Now I want to define my own exception handling mechanism, and I want to handle the exception. For that, I'm going to have the throw keyword. So dear student, when my program generates any error, that must be thrown. For that, I'm going to have the throw keyword in my C# programming. So here, exceptions are used to indicate that an error has occurred while running the program. So dear student, we required exception handling mechanism to handle the error properly, which is going to occur during the execution. That is nothing but the during the execution of the program. In the sense what? It's nothing but the runtime exception. So here exception is nothing but an object that describes an error. So here what is exception object? That is mainly used to describe what kind of error are created and that is thrown with the throw keyword, and all these things are called runtime exception. So the runtime then searches for the most compatible exception handler. So dear student, to throw my own exception, I'm going to have the throw keyword, and see the syntax here. This is throw and this is nothing but my object. So where E is an instance. Instance in the sense what? Is nothing but the object of a class which is derived from the system.exception. Now let me to consider simple program here. See here, I'm going to create the namespace. And what is my namespace? That is nothing but throw to. In the sense, this namespace includes methods as well as fields. So what is my class name? That's nothing but the number generator, and the execution of the program is going to start from main program. And see here, I have three variables A, B, C, and okay, A equal to 10, B equal to 0, and C. If, see here, C equal to A divided by 0, which is equal to 0. In the sense what? When I try to divide the number by 0 and if generates any error. See, if I divide this number by 0, I'm going to get what? It is 0. So when this condition is true, then what's going to happen? I'm going to have my own exception handler. See, I'm going to throw the exception. So I'm going to use the keyword throw, and I'm going to use the keyword new. That means I'm going to throw my own new exception. So throw new, and I'm going to specify the exception name. So what kind of exception here? It is index out of range exception, or I can able to write divide by 0 exception. So I'm going to write my own exception here. Okay, and see here at the end, I'm going to display divide by 0. What is the output of this program? That is array index out of range. That means I'm going to create my own exception here. Okay, so throw, that means I got some exception, and to throw the exception, I'm going to use the keyword new. Okay, and what is the output of this program? That is array index out of range and divide by 0 exception. Along with that, I'm going to have another very important and very interesting concept, that is checked and unchecked. So dear student, I hope all are familiar with the word checked. It's nothing but the checking. Then what about unchecking? I'm not going to check in the sense what? I'm going to ignore. Similarly, if I consider programming language and if I want to check the integral type, then I am having the keyword checked. So here C# provides checked and unchecked keyword. So here C# programming supports two kinds of keyword, that is checked and unchecked, to handle all integral type exception. So to handle all integral type of exception, I have checked and unchecked keyword. These are the two keywords used to specify checked context and unchecked context. So there are certain time I just want to check the type of the data type, especially integral data. In that time, I'm going to use checked. And there are certain time I don't want to check the integral data types. In that time, I'm going to use unchecked. In checked context, we get arithmetic overflow. So, if I consider checked context, I'm going to get the arithmetic operators overflow. And if I consider unchecked, then arithmetic overflow is ignored. There are certain times when we perform an arithmetic operation, it provides or it produces certain exception. Now, to handle the arithmetic exception, I'm going to have checked. And if I want to ignore arithmetic exception, then I'm going to use unchecked keyword in my C# programming. So dear student, the checked keyword is used to explicitly check overflow. So dear student, when I'm going to perform any arithmetic exception or any arithmetic operation, it produces some error, and check those errors explicitly. I'm going to have checked keyword. So explicitly I'm going to check the overflow condition during the conversion of integral type at compile time. So I'm going to have the checked keyword to check the arithmetic overflow. And when I'll get the arithmetic overflow, when I perform conversion of integral type values during the compile time. So dear student, I'm going to have the example program without using checked keyword. See, I have this program, but I'm not using checked keyword. See here, what is my program name? That is program. So it is my class name. And the actual program starts from the main program. And see here, I have the int data type, and I'm going to have the variable name called val and int dot max val. So I'm trying to know the range of the maximum range of integer data type. So here it is int dot max val, and I'm going to print the maximum length of the integer with 2. That means I'm going to add 2 for the maximum length of the integer, and I'm going to get the output, that is minus 2147483647. So this output depends on the system. Okay, this output depends on the operating system. Now, if I consider same program with the help of checked keyword. So why I'm going to use checked keyword? In order to handle the overflow condition during the arithmetic expression. Now see, I have the checked keyword. In the sense, I'm going to write or use checked keyword in my program in order to check arithmetic overflow, and it happens during the conversion of integral data types. So here, see, I have same code, but what I did here, I just used checked keyword, and I'm trying to get the maximum length of an integer. For that, I'm going to add 2. Okay, so here I'm going to get the output unhandled exception. So here I'm getting some error, but to handle the error, I don't have any try block or catch block, but I used checked keyword. Now what is my output? Unhandled exception. So what kind of exception? That is system dot overflow exception. So here when I try to get maximum range of the integer, I'm going to get the output that is system dot overflow exception, and this result to arithmetic operation result in an overflow. So dear student, I have some maximum length of integer, but here what I'm doing, I'm adding 2 for that. So what it leads? It leads to overflow exception. Now I'm going to have another keyword that is known as unchecked. So what is unchecked here? I just want to ignore the errors or exception. For that, I'm going to have the unchecked. So dear student, when I perform arithmetic operation of integral data types, what's going to happen? It is going to generate some errors. And I don't want to consider the errors. I just want to ignore the errors. For that, I'm going to have the unchecked keyword. So the unchecked keyword ignores the integral type arithmetic exception. To ignore integral type arithmetic exception, I'm going to have the unchecked. And it does not check explicitly and produce result that may be truncated or wrong. So here we are not going to check the errors explicitly, even though it may generate error or not, but we are going to get the answer, and whatever the answer we are going to get, that may be truncated or that may be wrong. Now let me to consider unchecked keyword here. So this is the program used to illustrate the use of unchecked. So dear student, my namespace. So what is my namespace name? That is C# programming. And what is my class name? That is program. And the actual program starts from the main program. And here I'm going to have the keyword called unchecked, and it's mainly used to ignore integral type arithmetic exception. And see, same code. I'm trying to get the maximum value of an integer data type. So I'm trying to get the maximum range of the integer data type. For that, what I will do, I'm going to add 2. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to add 2. Now, okay, this generates some exception, but I don't want to handle the exception and I just want to ignore the exception. For that, I'm going to have the unchecked. Unchecked in the sense what? I'm going to ignore integral type arithmetic overflow exception. I'm just going to ignore it. So what is the output I'm getting? That is minus 2147483647. Even though this code is going to generate an error, but still what we are going to do, we are going to ignore the error with the help of unchecked keyword. So dear student, this is the way I can able to use checked and unchecked keyword in my exception handling mechanism. Anyway, dear student, in my today's session, I started with how to handle and how to write nested try block. Along with that, I have discussed how to handle my own errors and how to throw the errors. Along with that, I have discussed checked and unchecked. So dear student, from the examination point of view, both checked and unchecked are very important concept. Anyway, dear student, let's meet in the next session with the new unit, that is introducing Windows Form. Until that, keep watching and keep learning. Thank you.